Welcome to the show, man. This is Big Reptile Talk. We got Mr. Frank in the building, the owner of MToxins Venom Lab. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, excited to have you on the show, man, and just talk animals. I wanna start, pre Venom Toxins Lab, and I want to ask you, what was your first reptile?
My first reptile was a three-toed box turtle, and I kept him for years and years and years. My first love was tortoises and turtles.
Oh, so it was you didn't even start off with a snake to begin with. You started
No,
with a turtle.
I didn't start working with snakes until I was about 9.
Right. What was your first snake that kind of just was like, you know what, this is what I want to do?
Well, I always wanted a boa constrictor because those were cool in my day. That was the snake to have. But I was working with my cousin's wild import ball pythons, and this is 30 years ago when they were all imports and they didn't eat. They were extremely defensive snakes. It's nothing like it is today. They were a very different breed to get going.
Right. Now you say you love those boas. Is that why you did that magazine cover with the boa around your neck?
Yeah, pretty much. That's my personal pet, and I've had him for such a long time. I figured if we're gonna be on the cover of a magazine, he's got to be there with me.
Exactly. That magazine cover was incredible. I'm like, this is a really nice magazine cover. It almost looked like an album cover.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now I gotta ask this, man. So, what was your first venomous snake that just made you catch that venom bug?
Well, funny enough, I started out the wrong way in working with venomous. I started with black mambas, and so those were the first venomous snakes I was really handling. I had some coral snakes as well. It's about the same time that I was starting to work with coral snakes that the black mamba stuff came up. So I started with one of the most extreme snakes you could learn from, and it wasn't always pretty.
Do y'all hear? This man said his first venomous snake was a black mamba. He didn't start here. He started up here.
It's not the way to go. It's not the way I teach my interns and staff. They have to work up a gentle progression from copperheads to cottonmouths, and then they get into some of the rattlesnakes and the cobras and the mambas, the elapids. They're so much different mechanically how they function that you have to have that basic skill set in place first. So yeah, I did it
Right.
the wrong way. I did it the wrong way.
Now, what do you think the best beginner venomous is?
Honestly, and I get laughed at when I say this, but I'd say a copperhead or a cottonmouth. Cottonmouths are really fascinating snakes. They're easy to keep. They're generally easy to handle, and they're kind of just treated like they're trailer trash. But it's a great way to start. Copperheads too, But just because they're easy starter snakes doesn't mean they can't still hurt you really, really, really badly. Some people respond to a copperhead bite and all they need is a antihistamine and a beer to get through the bite, and other people can lose digits. You never know how you're going to react to venom.
Right. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's reaction is different. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you've got the facility, and we're gonna talk about that. But before we talk about what's at the facility, man, I want to talk about your personal collection. When you go home, what's that stuff that nobody can see?
It's pretty boring. I've got 2 ball pythons, one for each of my children. Um, as I said, I have my boa constrictor, but he's an educational animal we keep at the facility. But we have a couple of retics as well because my wife loves retics, and so do I. So we have a couple at home.
Right. All right. Now, speaking of your wife, I gotta put you in the hot seat, man. You brought this up. I gotta ask a couple hot seat questions, but we're gonna start with the first one.
Yeah.
Hot seat question number one. Have you ever lied to your wife about the cost of a snake? Has it ever been like a $4,000 snake? You was like, baby, I need it. I need it at the facility. It's only 300.
I've never lied about a price, but I've omitted saying what the prices are on some of the stuff we have. I always joke with her it's her responsibility to follow up with another question if she wants to know. But that was in the early days. Now, we get what we need for production, and so there's really no goofing around. But yeah, I've omitted a few prices through the years.
Now, I definitely got to talk about the lab, man. Can you talk to me about the MToxins Venom lab origin? How did it originate?
It originated. I was helping a person who had a collection of venomous snakes, and I just was really fascinated by extracting the venom and learning about it. So I started doing it with no customers, no nothing, until I got a really rare type of coral snake called the Malaysian blue coral snake. And I was the only one that was keeping them in the country at the time. And a couple researchers found out that I had them and said, will you extract venom for us for the study? So I kind of taught myself to a point, and then started to look at how could I realistically turn this into a business? Because there's a million people that say they want to open a venom lab until they realize there's no money in it. It's you do it because you love those animals and you want to save people's lives. That's why you do it. I don't want to get off topic there, but so it was about 12 years ago that I started extracting venom, supplying it for research studies, and the business just grew from there. So it was, oh, you have these rare coral snakes. What else do you have? So then as I'm amassing my collection, I'm sending samples all over the world, and that's what kind of brought me into it. Now we provide for two of the biggest anti-venom manufacturers in the world. So it just grew organically.
I love that, man. Like to go from extracting venom on your own to jumping into a facility and providing for some of the biggest anti-venom makers in the country. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, we're all very proud of it. We're very proud of it.
Right. Now, with you having your own facility, I want to ask you this. We all have heard, the crazy cat lady stories, the lady that has 50 crazy cats next door. And the reason I say that is, did where you're at right now, did the city embrace you, or did they kind of say, no, this man has 50 venomous snakes. We don't want him here. He's the crazy cat lady.
Because we have so many licenses for everything, and we had an overwhelming positive response with the city. They welcomed us in open arms. I mean, we're right in downtown of Oshkosh. So, next to us is a yoga studio and there's a hair salon across the street. I mean, we're right in the middle of a commercial area, and they promote us heavily with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and stuff like. They're wonderful to us. They're absolutely wonderful to us.
And you know why? And I'm gonna tell you something. The reason they're wonderful to you is because of what you just said. You know what? We got all our permits, we got all our licenses, and they know you're doing it correctly. So they're like, "Come on, we support you because you're doing it the right way."
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of jokes at the city council meetings about people not wanting to come in the building because they're too afraid, but stuff like that. But they went through every step. The university stepped up. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. Now, I got to put you in the hot seat, man, and I want to know, with you being in the reptile hobby, who is your favorite reptile YouTuber?
My favorite YouTuber?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would have to say Will Nace, just because I've known him forever.
Good dude. That's a good dude.
He's a very nice guy. I've known his family for a long time. I always say this, and if he hears it, he's going to roll his eyes. But he does some stupid shit. But he's still my friend. So
Good dude. He's definitely been on the podcast.
Yeah,
Desert Wolf Armory says he doesn't know, but he thinks you might be the guy who got most of his Atrox babies.
yeah, I did.
He said, "Yeah, there you go, Wolf." He said he is that guy. Now I want to ask you, man, with you having the facility and you're extracting venom, and yeah, you're sending it off site to produce the anti venom, but do
Mhm.
you ever see yourself actually, instead of sending it away, trying to learn how to produce the anti venom on site yourself?
No, just because it requires an immense amount of knowledge in primarily horses, because we have to microdose the animal, and basically keep them as healthy as you can while you're triggering this immune response on them. So, to make antivenom after our portion of it is an incredibly detailed science. And I'll tell you, the country that makes the best antivenoms is Mexico. They have,
Mexico,
yes, they produce the absolute highest quality antivenoms.
even even though our hospitals is a little more advanced, just a little bit, they producing better anti venom.
Yes, there are scientists down there who have revolutionized how we make antivenom to make it safer, um, and and easier to administer. They are the pioneers.
That's incredible, man. Now I gotta ask this, man. Currently on site at the MToxins Venom Lab, what's the You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but
Sure,
what's the most toxic animal currently on site?
it would be our inland taipans. It would be those for sure.
Man, that is incredible. You have one of them on site.
Yeah, we have one on display and we have a few on the venom production line. And they say the snake can kill 100 men with one bite, et cetera, et cetera. The funny thing is you know, they're incredibly toxic, but no one's ever died from a bite
Oh
from one.
wow.
So they're reclusive snakes, and Australia makes a great anti-venom. And so no one's ever died. So you have the most dangerous land snake in the world, but it doesn't bite anybody. And there's really never any human snake conflict.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Now, something that I've always wanted to know, man, because I've seen a lot of these YouTube videos. During the venom extraction process,
Mhm.
what's going through your mind specifically while you're holding that snake?
I'm singing because we blast music in the Venom Lab. Um, it helps me. It helps me relax because I always tell people if you stop for a second and think about what you're physically doing, you you can mess up. It racks your brain. You're holding one of the deadliest animals in the world and forcing it to be as defensive as it can be as it bites a vessel. So I like to have music going all the time to just relax. It's like getting into you just focus in on it, if that makes sense. So there's not a lot. There's normally not a lot going on up here, but when I'm extracting, there's even less.
Right? Kind of clear your mind, sing the music that's going on, and just kind of be in the moment with the snake, you and that snake.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that. I love that. Now, teach me. I'm 'cause this is venom extraction for dummies.
Okay.
Teach me the process. So what's the steps that you have to do? So you have to get the snake, it has to bite on the thing, the venom got to come out, and how do you have to store it? Is it in the freezer? Is
Sure.
it room temperature? What's the
So
process?
so anytime venom is exposed to room temperature, it starts to break down. So what we do is we have a chalice, like just a glass beer stein, basically, and we use a special membrane on top. We capture the snake. The snake bites, and if we're doing a big run of the same type, we'll continuously extract into that vessel. Excuse me, and then it goes immediately to a centrifuge and gets purified, and then we freeze dry it. And then so when it goes out to the customer, it's a flaky little powder, and that's when it's its most toxic.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Now, I want to ask you this, man. When you tell people, give me people's reaction when you tell them what's your job, and they're like, hey, Mr. Frank, where do you work at? What do you do? It's like I extract venom from the deadliest snakes in the world. What are some of the reactions that you have gotten?
Well, I mean, we try to be just have a lot of humility about it. So, my normal job, I'm an electrical engineer. That's my normal job, and so doing the snakes is secondary, um, still to this day. So people usually are just in shock. They don't know that places like this exist. So it's a lot of just dropped jaws, you know.
Right. Now, DG, we're gonna come back to that. I don't want to interrupt the interview. DG, we're gonna come back to that. I actually have that wrote down, man. This is what I do. I'm an interview king, man. I already have that question wrote down, but we're gonna come to it in just a second, DG. One of the people that's watching wants me to ask you a question, and I want
Sure.
to ask it a little. I want to ask it a little later. Now I want to ask this, man. Any of the stuff that you have on site, did you get it from herping?
From where? From
Did you get
herping?
it from herping? Herping?
Yeah, some of it. It's we try to do everything we can to not collect out of the wild. Unfortunately, there's certain snakes where a specific locality has what we need. So we do collect, but we try to do it as infrequently as possible. There's a place called the Reptile Preservation Institute. It's ran by Cody and Pia Bartolini. They breed all our mambas, they breed our puff adders, our gaboons, everything we need. They breed for us. So it only has to be rare occasions that we take a snake from the wild.
Nice. So
And
you more so.
I'm a terrible field herper, the absolute worst field herper ever. The snake could go over my boots while we're standing there, and I wouldn't see it.
Now, I gotta ask this, man, because this is, with non-venomous snakes, this is easy. I could prevent mites with my eyes closed on a non-venomous snake.
Sure.
How hard is it to go through and prevent mites or eradicate mites in a venomous collection like yours?
So we use, and I wish more herpers would catch on to this because they'd find it works so well. I mean, we use hot shot pest strips, man. Kills them all. And we get mites. We have 589 snakes on the Venom line, and we can't screw around. If I take a hot shot strip and throw it in there, they're gone within a day. So, we do get it. It does happen. Happens in every collection. But yeah, that's all we use and control it that way. We don't even really have to handle the snake. We can just put that in there in the enclosure with it, leave it for 24 hours, and they're gone.
And then just take it out, or you leave it in there for a couple
Nope,
days?
we take it out. Well, we'll leave it in there a couple days just to be safe. Some snakes, like gaboon vipers, they break down very quickly if they get mites and stuff like that. So, but those hot shot pest strips, we swear by them for any type of snake.
I'm gonna have to check that out, man. I'm gonna start doing that because that seems like it's stress free. Cut a strip, throw it in the enclosure, and you're good.
And you're good. The only thing you got to always be careful of is don't let it go near a water source because it'll contaminate the water that the snake or lizard could be drinking from. So it's always imperative to put it on the opposite side or somewhere in the enclosure where the snake couldn't somehow drink water off it.
Right. Now, I want to ask you this, man. Why do you think venomous snakes are so misunderstood? And when I say that, instantly when you tell somebody you got a venomous snake, they just instantly think you got a cobra or whatever you got is gonna kill you. And I have to explain to them, like, do you understand everything that's venomous won't kill you? I mean, you got the hog nose, you have the false water cobra where there's not really deaths documented by a false water cobra. And
Right.
I even go as far as telling people, do you understand bees are venomous? Like when you get stung, a bee sticks a stinger in your skin and there's a venom sac pumping venom under your skin. I have to explain to just so many people. Why do you think there's just such a bad misconception when it comes to venomous snakes that just the public thinks every single one will kill you? Just the media.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's part of it. I think that the average American or wherever doesn't think about the reason those venoms developed was because of evolutionary pressure, right? So they had to evolve to be able to, they evolved their toxins to be able to capture their prey. It just so happens that our blood systems are close enough to, in some regards, to their prey that they affect us the way they do. Our tissues, everything like that. Um, you know, people don't understand that it's just saliva, you know, and those snakes, even those false water cobras, right? You know, it's all prey driven. It's how they adapted to be able to capture their correct prey items. So I know that
Right.
doesn't, it's not the greatest answer to your question, but I think there's just, I think there's people just assume that it's there to hurt us, and it's not. A snake doesn't want to give up its venom. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of energy for a snake to produce it, and so you know that's why there's so many what we call dry bites. You know, people step on a snake, get bitten, they'll have the fang punctures, but they didn't get any venom. You know, snakes aren't stupid, and they know you're not a prey item. But if you step on one, all it has to defend itself is its mouth. You know,
Exactly.
so kind of a roundabout way of answering your question, but
No, I love it. I love it. Now, what do you think about like the venom laws? Do you think they're okay the way they are? Do you think they need to be a little more strict? What do you think about them? You know, and the reason I ask this is because we all seen the escape cobra in North Carolina, such a big fiasco. And you know, I want to get your take on what do you think about the laws?
well, I think it's difficult because I believe that people should have a right to have what they want to have. You know, and what I get frustrated with is, you know, as long as you're not infringing on the rights of someone else, meaning putting someone else in danger, anyone should be able to keep these animals. Who's the government to try to regulate and say who's competent and who isn't? It's it's
Exactly.
it's the same thing. I always explain it in our serpentarium to people. I say, are there good dog owners and bad dog owners? And they'll say yes. And it's, well, there's great venomous snake keepers that do incredible work, and there's crappy ones that let their snakes get out. Um, so it, you know, I think there should be a permitting system. There should be nationwide, but you know, I think the criteria don't need to be as strict as Florida. For example, I mean, 1,000 hours working with Gila monsters to get that on your permit. How do you rack up 1,000 hours of Gilas? I mean, Gilas
Right.
need next to no maintenance. They don't need. They're primarily hands off. You know, some of it's just ridiculous to me.
Right.
But anyways, I think in short, people should be able to keep what they want to keep, and as long as they're doing it safely, we need to police ourselves as a reptile hobby, and we don't do that enough. It's too egotistical, but we really should be looking out for each other. And I always,
Now,
oh, sorry,
oh no, you go ahead. You go ahead. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I always tell people it's not me that's going to lose the right to have them. You know what I mean? It's not going to be our venom lab that can't get these venomous snakes anymore. It's going to be people in the private sector. So that's why I think it's so important for them to police themselves. You know, what escape have you ever heard of out of a venom lab? You know, you don't, because we layer ourselves in safety and safety and safety. You know, but anyway.
I agree with you all the way, man. And speaking of North Carolina, I wanted to show you an email and get your take on it. So I'm gonna show it to you.
Sure.
Now this is the email from a city councilman in Raleigh, North Carolina. And let me take that streamer off for a second too. So this is an email from a councilman in North Carolina, or a senator or whatever, the lawmaker in North Carolina. He's
Okay.
posing a question. He's posing a question to the reptile community, and I wanted to see, what do you think about this question? And in the email it says, thank you for your input. We will look at how Ohio regulates dangerous animals. I still haven't been given a reasonable, rational explanation as to why a private citizen who lives in a city should be allowed to keep wild, dangerous animals in their personal possession. What is the benefit to society that balances out the risk and danger to society? I get there is an industry around these animals, but that doesn't make it right for animals to be kept in the city for personal pleasure. Signed, David, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina government. What do you think about that?
I think that it's a question. It's a legitimate question, but it's backed with a lot of naivete. It's a very naive question to ask. Um, you know, whose business is it what pleasure you get out of keeping an animal? It's nobody's business, right? So that infuriates me. And we can come back to the same thing I spoke about earlier, where we have facilities that breed venomous snakes for us, so we have them for production. That's one good thing that a keeper can do. But people forget, like Klauber, the god of rattlesnake science, was keeping these and was in the private sector. So, you could have someone that's younger that's wants to keep these. I mean, there's a state, I don't remember which one it is, but it's legal to keep non-natives, but natives you can't. And it's I forget where it is. It's in a range where copperheads and cottonmouths are everywhere. So that makes no sense to me. So you'd rather have them start with a cobra than a little copperhead or something. But I digress. I think that the answer to that should be probably how a lot of keepers would respond to it is, why is it your business and why do I have to justify it?
That's true.
But there's a lot of people in the private sector that do incredible things that can be brought up as examples.
Right. I don't think we need to change the laws. I think it just boils down to responsibility when it comes to your animals. And when I say that, I want to go into the next segment and I want to show you a cage, what I think is the future of caging. And I want to get your take on it. So I'm going to shut this off so I can set up to show you this cage. Okay. Give me like 1 second. Okay.
No problem.
I'm going to set this. Okay, we are here. Now, this is called a venom proof cage. Why does it keep reverting to me? I might not be able to show you the cage. Oh, that's the internet catching up. Okay, we'll do it like this. My internet's acting kind of funny, so we'll do it like this. So what do you think of a cage like this? So on this cage, you have a feeding door to where you don't have to touch the snake. Then you have a built-in hot cold hide, and you have a hot side. And each of these doors have a lock, each of them. So you never have to take the snake out. And what I mean is, if you look right here on the outside of the cage, you see that door right there?
Yep.
Can you see it? So let's say because the snake is in that coconut hide. Let's say I want to clean out this side. I could pull this door and shut that door. If you see, that door shuts. So I could shut that door and lock him in on that side. And I could clean this side. And let's say if I want to clean the hot side, I can use my snake hook and be safe, manipulate that venomous snake into that lockable hideout and close the door and clean this hot side. What do you think about that? What's your take on that?
I think it looks incredibly professional. You know, I'm all about the locks, but what I really love are in the industry. A lot of manufacturers are starting to do an integral hide box, you know, or you know, and being able to block it out, lock the snakes in there. It's a big step up from where venomous caging was a long time ago.
Yeah. Now, I think you know the owner of the company. He said he lives like a block away from you, old Joe Chaloner. Okay, now I wanted to kind of get back into it, man. So I think you're doing amazing stuff, man. And I've seen that you had some celebrity visits to your facility. And when I say celebrity, I mean Tom Crutchfield. He is a legend. And when I say that, just how was it just being able to interact with Tom Crutchfield?
Well, he's never been to our facility. I've been down to his a handful of times.
Oh.
But you know, Tommy's Tommy. He's a riot, and he's a textbook of knowledge.
I agree. Is there anybody that you would like to visit your Venom lab? If you could have anybody visit, who would it be and why?
Well, if he wouldn't have passed away, it would have been Bill Haast. To have Mr. Haast here would have been a great honor. Half the building's dedicated to him. So, you know, he would be my number one pick.
Right. That's what's up, man. Now this is a hot seat question that's gonna make you think, man.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all in the reptile hobby, you know, and when anybody thinks of the king of the hobby, you know, there's two of them. The one that's alive is Brian Barczyk, and if we don't want to say Brian Barczyk is the king of the hobby, who instantly, when I say who's the king of the hobby, what name comes to mind?
I'm going to answer this in a way you're not going to like, but probably the king of the hobby is someone that's doing something no one else is aware of, doing revolutionary things in breeding, and you'll never hear about him anywhere. You know, there's guys like, if you've never looked up Michael Vesio, he's a friend of ours. He's breeding snakes that people never thought could be bred, keeping them alive in captivity. But he chooses to stay quiet, and not because he has anything to hide, but because he doesn't want to be involved in the drama. So
right.
I think it's the person you least think of is probably doing some of the most revolutionary stuff.
Right. I agree with you. A lot of people that's out there that, you know, nobody knows about because they stay away from the spotlight. But normally when I ask that question, most people, you know, when I say who was the king of the hobby, they instantly say Steve Irwin. Why do you think that is?
I think Steve was the way that the energy level that he gave off and his passion, there was never a fake moment in that guy's excitement when he was, you know, teaching you on his program. You know, it was sincere. And I know that a lot of millennials, that's their David Attenborough, right? Like for me, it was David Attenborough. For the younger generation, it's Steve Irwin. And, you know, he's inspired so many people. It makes sense why that generation feels that way. about him to me.
Now you want to know something crazy? For me, if you were to ask me who the king of the hobby was, alive or dead, I would say Jack Hanna, but he's so
Yeah,
overlooked.
he is.
You know, I'm like, why is Jack Hanna's legacy so overlooked? You know, I'm not taking anything away from Steve Irwin, love him, but he is really overlooked in our hobby.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyway, so I want to get back on the topic of venomous snakes, man. So talk to me about what is your current favorite venomous and non-venomous. Well, I know your non-venomous is the boa. What's your favorite venomous snake?
My favorite venomous snake is probably a common crate, and they're really not that cool to see, but they're from an evolutionary standpoint, their venom's fascinating. Their defensive mechanisms are fascinating. Um, they're disgusting. They dump their bowels as part of their defense, and I really crates are my favorite. My least favorite handling is massive Eastern Diamondbacks. We have massive Eastern Diamondbacks on the Venom line, and those will make me a little squirrely.
Yeah, we want to take a bite from them.
No, not at all.
Now, can we talk about the anti-venom price? So I have a buddy, I won't say his name, you know, but and it happens to all of us. It's happened to you. You know, everybody working in the snake hobby, you're going to get bit, even if it's non-venomous. You're going to get bit. It's going to happen. You could be the safest in the world, but it happens. And I want to say that to ask, you know, what is the current anti-venom price? I heard that when you go to the hospital, it's like $10,000 a vial.
Well, if we're talking about North America specifically, um, that'd be talking Crofab or Antivip, Anavip. There's two products now that are FDA approved. Um, there's the manufacturer's price, right? Just like anything, you buy a T-shirt. You know, Target doesn't pay what you pay for that T-shirt. They pay a lower cost and mark it up. The same thing happens with antivenom. A lot of the antivenoms like Crofab are $2,000 a vial, but the hospital puts a markup on it, and they can put any markup they want. They can mark it as high as they want. Some hospitals will charge $10,000 a vial. Some will charge, like 5,000 or 6,000 a vial. And with Crofab, if you have a bad enough bite, you could need 60 vials, and that's where you see these insane bills of $1 million for a snake bite. It's really just as bad as it is to say greediness on the side of the hospitals for what they're going to charge. Now, when you look at Africa, for example, the antivenoms that cover most of sub-Saharan Africa are about $150 a vial, $75 to $150. And if you get bit, let's say you're a farmer in Kenya and you're working your fields and you're barefoot and you get bit by a saw-scaled viper, to pay for that antivenom can cost you your farm animals to try to pay for it. So people say, a single course of antivenom can bankrupt a person. It doesn't matter the price of the serum; it's relative everywhere. You know what I mean?
That's
So
bull.
a lot of times, like with the philanthropic work that we do at the Snakebite Foundation, it's $300 to save a person's life, with that antivenom over there. But because we're greedy and we're Americans, you get bit in our country and you're going to lose everything too. I mean, it is flat out bankrupt people. So,
That is baloney.
yeah, it's equally, it's equal. It's just relative to where it happens.
Right? Man, now one thing that I love about your facility, man, it's not just a venom extraction. I love the concept of, we're venom extracting, we're educating, and we have that zoo, man. Talk to me about that, man. What's some of the stuff that you have on site in your zoo?
So I'm really into reptile bird evolution. So we have birds of prey. And so we typically have our bald eagle and 3 different owls on display, and we talk a lot about that. You know, people forget. Look at a bald eagle's feet. Tell me that wasn't a dinosaur. You know,
Right.
I mean. So anyway, and feathers. You know, same thing as scales. So that's why we have the birds specifically, but we always try to bring in stuff. It's always kind of it's a little bit, I'll be honest, it's a little bit shady, right? I've brought in a kangaroo because everyone loves something furry, but that gets them in the door, but then they end up leaving touching their first snake, you know, learning about these animals. So it tricks them, it gets them in the building, and then they learn about everything.
Right.
We just had a sloth here for 10 days, so people could come and see that. We try to work with zoos to always have something furry or feathered here, you know, just to keep people's interest.
And that's smart. That's genius marketing. You know, you might not like snakes, but come check out this skunk I got on site. Come check out this hawk I got on site. They get in there and then they're like, well, show me everything, and that just opens their mind. You smart.
Opens their mind, and it really does. And we've seen it thousands of times now since we opened the zoo portion. You know, we see it every day. People that don't want to come there for the snakes, they wanted to see our raccoon or something, but then they end up putting a boa constrictor around their neck and posing for pictures, and by the time they leave, they have a whole new appreciation. And that's, like I said, it's a little shady how we bring them in, but but they leave educated, and that's what matters to us.
All right, now I love that answer. I want to talk to you about your Instagram, man. How does it feel having 40,000 plus subscriptions and people that just want to see what you're doing?
I don't know. I don't put a lot of stock in social media personally. Like, I was off of Facebook for 4 years and just went back to it, but it's one of those things where and I don't know. It feels good that people are that interested in it, you know. And we try to do content up there, but a lot of times there's huge gaps in the content because it's almost an afterthought. We appreciate everyone who subscribes. We appreciate it, but yeah, we try to keep our nose down and focus on our work.
Right. I have one last question, and then I want to do some audience questions before we're done. Just a couple.
Sure.
Desert Wolf wants to know: do you still have the Atrox that he produced? They were het albino.
Yes.
And there was another one from DG Reptile. I don't know if you're still here. You might have to ask that again because I can't see it in the chat. I'm scrolling up, DG. Something about Viper Venom. There it is. Can you get Pit Viper's anti-venom, or is there no such thing?
Well, what type of pit viper is the question?
There you go, DG. If you're still here, ask your question. What type of pit viper? While he's typing that question in, I want to, you know, because we're getting ready to end the interview, man. We went a good 30 to 40 minutes. I appreciate you for doing that. I wanted to talk to you, man, about your new employees, man. You gotta have a hazing tactic, man. And when I say that, you know, being in the Venom lab, if you want to work here, I'm gonna haze you. I'm gonna toss a hog nose at you and be like, oh my God, the snake is out.
Yeah, they get hazed pretty bad. They get it pretty bad. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to share
some of the stuff you've done.
No, I'm not going to say some of the stuff.
Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to. DG, if you're here, man, ask that question one more time, brother. I'm trying to get your question answered. He said Bushmaster or eyelash vipers. Can you get anti-venom for those, or no such thing?
The Bushmaster has an anti-venom called Anavip Tri that's used to treat those bites. Eyelash vipers, there's no species-specific anti-venom for them. So what they'll use is anti-venom called green tree pit viper anti-venom, and it's actually for white-lipped vipers, but it'll neutralize a lot of the proteins and get you through the bite okay.
There you go, DG Reptiles, man. This is a legend. He's doing iconic stuff. He said he don't like that word, but he's doing iconic stuff. Make sure you go to his Instagram, MToxins Venom Lab, or give him a follow. Just see some of the iconic stuff he's doing. First off, Mr. Frank, I want to thank you for doing this interview with me, man. It's incredible to be able to pick your brain and just talk to you about some of this stuff. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. First, I want to thank everybody too in the chat. Give a shout out to Kurtwood75. Make sure y'all go subscribe to him. Shout out to Ty. Shout out to Venom Wonderful, DG Reptiles, Moon Over Miami, Casey Mystic, Mountain Morse, Solo Butterfly. Everybody in the chat, man, I appreciate you. Shout out to Desert Wolf, Michaela. Go subscribe to all these people. They're great people. Subscribe to Ball Python Love. Subscribe to Reese's Pythons, Cold-Blooded Monstars, My Animal House, Iron Dog, Fitz Family Constrictors. All these are great people. It's a part of the community y'all belong to. Y'all make sure y'all go subscribe to them. Everybody said this was an awesome interview. Thank you for your time, and you are very humble.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
This is Big Reptile Talk. Mr. Frank, I'm going to let you go ahead and go because I know you're a busy man. So I want you to have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace, brother. I appreciate that. Shout out to Doug's Monster. Shout out to CSL. And shout out to Venom Wonderful. And last but not least, shout out to my lovely fiance. I love you. Thank you for putting up with my hobby. I could be a lot. Make sure y'all tune in. We got a bonus episode in about 20 minutes with Venom Life Gear. This is Derek Reptiles, and we out of here. Peace.